another weird episode of The World Ends With You, where the entirety of this episode is not playing The World Ends With You. It's in fact reading a web page. Here we go. Secret Report 5. The real ground and underground are planes of existence. Other planes exist as well. The one inhabited solely by noise, for example, or our customary plane. The planes are stacked in parallel, though each exists at a different frequency vibe, in tune with its inhabitants. Observing a lower plane from a higher plane is simple. Actual transplanar contact, whilst possible, is highly complex. The vibes of adjacent planes are closer, making passage between them comparatively easier. More distant planes show greater differences in vibe frequencies, and thus communion becomes more difficult. The UG exists just above the RG, allowing those in the UG to observe the RG, but not vice versa. Noise exists on a special plane and straddles both the RG and UG, enabling their interference in the affairs of both. When players come into contact with noise, they are drawn into the noise plane. In other words, players are forcibly tuned into the noise plane. Conversely, there exists an even higher plane than the RG and UG. That is where I am from, the plane of the angels. Oh, okay. As in the RG and the UG, angels have created a web of social schema. Schema? I guess that's a word. Social schema to guide their activities. The role of producer is just one cog in the angel machine. Angel vibes are extremely high frequency. Not even the composer can catch them all. In actuality, he can pick up only that of the producer. As you can see, interplanar contact is beset by difficulty, but certain modes do exist for its realization. One is the modular decal. Within its area of effect, players from the UG can manifest visibly in the RG and communicate with others there. Reapers and the composer can downtune their vibes at will. Near these decals, however, even their vibes will be forcibly adjusted to the lower frequency. Another mode, imprinting, requires no physical manifestation in the RG. Imprintees experience the conferred thoughts as bursts of inspiration. The reliability of these communiques thus depends upon the person receiving it. For example, successful communication with preoccupied people is unlikely. Furthermore, recipient interpretation of said inspiration colors the message, making imprinting unreliable at best. Reaper Creeper was created as a mode of popular communication between the planes. Modulating paralogos, I'm learning so many new words today. Modulating paralogos, printed on paper, allowing for limited UG interaction with real ground objects. As those in the RG are unaware of players, they perceive the illusion of a coin moving by itself. Secret Report Day 6. I receive periodic communication from the composer. While we maintain contact, I am prohibited from providing him with information for risk of unbalancing the game. I am permitted only to respond to his commissions for certain items, and even then, I am able to create and deliver said items. The composer has requested increased phone functionality for use in the game. This sounds very familiar to what Joshua asked Mr. Hannah Montana to do that we've seen previously. Today, the proxy's partner, one Shiki Misaki, freed herself from her defining value, envy. With this, the composer is convinced of the proxy's victory on the 7th day. His confidence arises because the proxy's intervention was indispensable in causing his partner's growth. It signals the proxy's departure from his obsessive self-actualization loop. Previously, even the composer was unsure of his proxy's capacity for growth. Normally, the composer possesses a certain degree of clairvoyant foresight. His current downtuned state, however, limits his abilities, clouding this supertemporal vision. Though able to observe the UG from the real ground, he is otherwise saddled with limitations. For one, his outward appearance. He looks younger than he would at full vibe frequency from the UG. Fortunately, this prevents the Reapers from recognizing him as the composer. Oh. There's the answer to, is Joshua a kid? The answer is no. Okay. To begin with, the composer contacts Reapers only through the conductor, so most are unaware of what he looks like. Additionally, as the being in the underground with the highest vibe, some lesser Reapers are incapable of perceiving him. The effects of down-tuning occur because the composer's vibe and the RG's frequency are substantially different. For Reapers, the down-tuning necessary to exist in the RG is significantly less, and thus affects less prominent changes. That said, it depends on the Reaper. At any rate, the effect is minimal, making Reapers much more frequent visitors to real ground. Provided they complete their duties, Reapers may do as they wish in the RG within certain accepted boundaries. Secret Report, Day 7. As the composer predicted, the proxy has won the game. So, what happens to those who survive the week? Those whose imagination is less than outstanding are broken down into soul, while those with excellent imagination become Reapers. The most talented of these may travel to the next plane, inhabited by us angels. Diligent Reapers, too, may pass through the office of composer to ascend to the plane of angels. Now, a what if. This may sound odd, but one may also choose to be reincarnated. While the word reincarnation is not quite accurate, for the humans of the UG are not truly dead. They merely possess different soul code and have been turned into a different plane. Okay, we angels do not consider it a loss if a talented player elects to return to the real ground, as their superior imagination will inspire other humans. Upon returning to life, the exceptional player's creative activities soon make their mark upon society. His art, music, and other output become a part of culture, spreading and persisting through time, refining people's imagination even without personal contact with the player. This sounds a lot like what happened with Cat. You know? I'm just saying, that sounds a little odd. But we've already decided that Cat, being Mr. Hannah Montana, was the producer. I'm not sure if this can come to be, but it sounds a lot like Cat's influence. Just drawing a parallel. I'm not saying this is a theory. I'm just drawing a parallel for now. Anyway, where was I? Certainly this requires time, but no one has ever accused angels of being in a hurry. The composer's absence during this particular game, however, means that reincarnation is not an option. Only the composer possesses the level of imagination necessary to reincarnate. It is beyond the conductor's means. Huh, so the entire time we played, even though reincarnation was promised, it was impossible? That's why literally nobody reincarnated throughout the course of the game? Interesting. Am I understanding that correctly? Maybe not. If not, correct me in the comments. The conductor continues to act as if the composer were present, but this farce can only continue for so long. I will be watching with great curiosity to see how the conductor responds once his ruse unravels. As I was busy writing reports, the boy in my custody, Beat, went missing. That's odd, because on day 7 of Shiki's week, Beat was with Hannah Montana. But what? I'm so confused! Okay, but what the fuck's going on? Sure, alright. Beat had expressed curiosity in how noise was created. Perhaps he plans to ask a Reaper, but even without specific instruction from them, he has the ability now. I gave him a pin filled with the special imagination required to create noise, and imprinting him with instructions for its use. This does not qualify as interference in the game. The information I gave him will have no impact on the game's results. It was merely a token of my esteem for his unflinching passion towards what he holds dear. Whether he uses this power and how is completely up to him. And that concludes Shiki's week, also known as week 1. Week 2, Joshua, day 1, secret report 8. As predicted by the composer, his proxy has entered the game a second time. The proxy has proven his aptitude and will be joined in the next game by the composer himself as his new partner. There are 3 reasons behind the composer's choice of actions: to ascertain the conductor's strategy, to educate his proxy, and to protect him. With his return to the UG, the limits on the composer's abilities will be relaxed. However, using his abilities could reveal his identity. As such, he will need to continue to limit himself for a while longer. This presents a certain set of risks. The greatest risk, however, lies with the composer joining the proxy for this game. The composer's presence, his tremendously high vibe, will place a great deal of physical and psychological strain on the proxy. Furthermore, the proxy's victory in the previous game has won him back his memory. The self-actualizing loop binding the proxy is thus stronger than ever. More deeply ensconced? A new word. More deeply ensconced even than the envy cleared from Shiki in the previous game. There is a possibility of the proxy's soul destabilizing, negating its progress during the previous game. Slight problems also persist with the proxy's personality. How long will the proxy be able to bear being side by side with the composer? It seems like as I read more and more, it seems like it's becoming more and more evident that this is truly the game of like limbo, you know? We're actually between life and death. Like, I know that's been obvious, but like, they're talking about like an angel plane. Sounds a lot like heaven to me. I don't know. It's very interesting. Anyway, continuing. Secret Report 9, Day 2, Joshua. Today, an alert was handed down. The discovery of a fallen angel. A fallen angel is one of those who has broke the angel's code. A criminal. Their crime revealing the secret of Taboo Noise Refinery to the game master, Minamimoto. I just said it right again, didn't I? Oh God. Minamimoto knows the composer's RG identity, secret even to the conductor, and has chased him down to the real ground. The fallen angel may also have supplied him with this information. Minamimoto lusts to take the composer's place, and his potential to do so comes second only to that of the conductor, despite being a complete outsider in the wager between composer and conductor. He stands to hinder the composer greatly. It is entirely possible Minamimoto may rise to the office of conductor before this wager has been decided. All eyes from the higher plane are on this game for the future of Shibuya. Should its result be invalidated by outside interference, the angel's disappointment would be vast. So, what is the fallen angel's goal? Dominion over the underground? Retribution against the angels? Whatever the case, we must carefully monitor Minamimoto's actions and stay vigilant against this fallen angel. Interesting. Day 3, Secret Report 10. I was finally able to hand over the phone tracking application the composer requested some time back. I informed the composer it was ready 3 days ago, but they apparently had no time to come pick it up. It just shows how carefully the proxy is planning each move. The application detects the conductor's imagination. With it, one can walk around Shibuya and piece together the conductor's strategy. At this point, even I cannot fathom the conductor's plan. I will have to rely on the information gathered by the composer. While I wait for his findings, I will work on the composer's next order, a second revision to the phone's functionality. Today also marks the first contact with the proxy since he formed a pact with the composer. He appears considerably wary of his partner at present time. As expected, the psychological strain is severe. So severe, in fact, that most players would be unable to continue. Right now, the only thing keeping the proxy in the game is his entry fee. At least his dangerously strained state of mind is acting to heighten his soul. I saw no sign of relapse or destabilization. Rather, the return of his memory seems to have yielded only positives. I look forward to watching the proxy's continued growth. I mean, at this point, it's incredibly obvious that, yes, we're reading the documents of one Mr. Hannah Montana. The entirety of the picture, still not painted to me yet. Let's continue. Day 4, Secret Report 11. The composer's reports indicate rough going in his investigation. I suspect the limits upon his abilities. Meanwhile, Minamimoto has not issued any missions. The Reaper elites must be alarmed as well. Perhaps this is more of the fallen angel's influence. As I've stated, Minamimoto is suspected of a liaison with a fallen angel. The fallen angel may have chosen Minamimoto for a few reasons. First, none desired the composer's office more. Minamimoto's obsession was great enough to compel him to pursue the composer into the real ground. Unlike simple Reapers, however, the composer's powers are not lost in the RG. I can just imagine the shock dawning on Minamimoto's face as I write this. Yes, the composer must down-tune the frequency of the real ground, limiting his powers. However, Minamimoto is in the same boat. As a result, the difference in their abilities remain unchanged, thus the assassination attempt failed. While Minamimoto's efforts were fruitless, they serve as ample proof of his convictions. The second reason the fallen angel may have targeted him is his lack of loyalty to the Reaper's organization and his preference for solo action. His distaste for cooperation meant little chance of him revealing the fallen angel's presence. The third reason is his consistently unconventional aesthetic. His bizarre actions regularly cause confusion among those around him. Even if the fallen angel were to urge him to do something out of the ordinary that would be ordinary for him, no one would suspect a thing. This is why he is an ideal target for a fallen angel to work his agenda without raising suspicion. At least it seems a logical conclusion. The question now is, why has Minamimoto abandoned the game? And what is he doing? I suspect that his only current objective is to take out the composer. If so, he is likely preparing for the 7th day and his opportunity to confront the players. Just what did the fallen angel tell Minamimoto? Perhaps no one will ever know. Am I supposed to be piecing together at this point who the fallen angel is? Because for some reason, I still don't know. I have no idea. Like, maybe I should, but if not, I guess I'll figure it out in a little bit. Hopefully. Day 5, Secret Report 12. The proxy feels an affection for the art of the designer Cat. Myself. There you go, full confirmation. As he was picked by the composer, this is hardly coincidence. It was an inevitability. Cat's creative works are embedded with command codes. His art acts as a medium for mass imprinting. The imprinting players use works only on an individual basis. However, through art, one can affect anyone who comes into contact with the work. I imbue my art with 2 command codes. The first is enjoy the moment more. This strengthens the imagination. The proxy received this signal loud and clear, though past trauma precluded him from responding accordingly. The second code, gather, calls to those with strong imaginations, hence the inevitability. Why wouldn't the composer find his worthy proxy standing in front of my graffiti? A single reason exists for rigging my art in this way. The creation of the future requires imagination. My art is widely accepted in Shibuya. This proves that those with imagination sufficient to create the future are gathering in the area. Shibuya's future is looking very bright. So this kind of immediately makes me want to backpedal on the theory that I drew, 7, maybe 8 minutes ago at this point. I'm not too convinced that, it's the same thing with Hannah Montana being reincarnated from a game. Although that's still an interesting food for thought. Anyway, day 6, Secret Report 13. I have finished revision 2 of the phone tracking app, which allows it to detect the Shibuya River. The composer aims to use this device to convey the river's location to the proxy. Before passing that knowledge along, the composer needed to understand the conductor's plan. As of yesterday, he felt confident in his hypothesis. The composer had encountered red skull pins everywhere the detector had led. The same pins I created at the conductor's behest on the first day. As I suspected, they form a prime piece of his strategy. The imagination he has filled those pins with is the same as that in the player pin, imprinting. They are set apart, however, by a single major difference. The red skull pins are made to imprint targets with the conductor's will. Anyone wearing the red skull pin is dominated by the conductor's mind. The further the pins spread, the more people he controls. However, the red skull pins have penetrated less than half of Shibuya's real ground population in the last 2 weeks. At this rate, the conductor's strategy will end in failure. How does he intend to penetrate the rest of Shibuya? I will be monitoring his actions closely. It's really interesting to see this from a different perspective because, when you're playing the game and you don't really understand what's going on, it all seems so innocent, All of these circumstances just seem like circumstances, nothing more, nothing less, not orchestrated. But we're finding out real quickly that even the smallest things were orchestrated from the beginning, behind the scenes, and that's really cool. I like this. Day 7, Secret Report 14. The final day's mission came from the conductor, eliminate Minamimoto. Unexpected as it was, tension ran high, but the composer's quick thinking saved the day. In the end, all went according to his plan, and he successfully guided the proxy onto the next game. His solution entailed first defeating Minamimoto, thereby ensuring the proxy's victory. Secondly, the composer pretended to be erased by Minamimoto while shielding the proxy. To accomplish this, he fled to a parallel world just before Minamimoto's final attack connected. The proxy survived the game alone, but that was again unable to elect reincarnation due to the composer's illegal participation in the game. For better or worse, the game between the composer and conductor concludes in 1 week's time. The conductor's strategy may end in failure, but we will see. I need to keep a close eye on his future actions. All I can do is wait for the composer to inform me of which parallel world he escaped to. Interesting. So that concludes Joshua's week. I think we're to read one more week of this. Let me just double check before I continue. I was right, so without further ado, day 1, Secret Report 15. I've begun patrolling Shibuya in pursuit of the conductor's strategy. While in Utagawa, I spotted Minamimoto's taboo noise refinery sigil. I remember seeing that. Okay, sure. Several types of these sigils exist in various categories, which we of the higher plane have classified. Not all of them, however, will work in the UG. Its vibe frequency is simply too low for them to translate properly. The sigil Minamimoto drew was one of the undecoded types. Was that a mistake on the Fallen Angel's part, or was it a transcription error by Minamimoto? Either way, with that design, he stands little chance of reviving himself. However, Minamimoto is driven and his imagination strong, perhaps strong enough to make a taboo sigil work, even in the underground. If so, the specific result would be impossible to predict. Anything that might interfere with the composer and conductor's wager is to be avoided at any cost. I will personally neutralize Minamimoto's sigil. Angels may not interfere in the Reaper's game, but this contest will decide Shibuya's future. The higher plane cannot idly stand by. Meanwhile, the composer has dealt a preemptive blow. The starting player count in this final game is 1. I cannot be certain whether the conductor knows that Neku Sakuraba is the proxy, but this severe restriction to the number of entrants ensures player erasure. In this flagrant abuse of his privilege, he has eliminated the threat of the proxy. With the composer in a parallel world, the proxy's position is perilous. Still, as producer, I am bound by the rules. I can offer him no help. All I can do is guide him to the Shibuya River. Call it luck or fate, even by himself, the proxy has managed to form a pact. He's partnered to beat. Now a Reaper, who is himself fixated on reaching the river. As such, guiding the proxy will require little work on my part. Still, I haven't uncovered the conductor's strategy for the final week. I can't afford to relax quite yet. Day 2, Secret Report 16. The conductor has used Beat's betrayal as an excuse to issue an emergency call. With it, the composer's rules of the UG are essentially suspended. After weeks of concealing the composer's absence, the conductor finally has absolute authority. At the same time, he made red skull pins mandatory for all Reapers. Now most of Shibuya has red skull pins. The stage has been set for the conductor's counterattack. Furthermore, he's cordoned off each area of the UG with walls. I could leave the UG, elevate my vibe, and pass through them easily, but to what end? I am bound to the UG, and thus my hands are tied. I cannot reach the composer, nor do I know in which parallel world he's hiding. For now, all I can do is my second sight to watch the game's progress. All I could do is use my second sight to watch the game's progress. The fuck does that mean? Day 3, Secret Report 17. Rather than head to the Shibuya River, the proxy has begun wandering the streets, apparently in pursuit of the Game Master. Konishi, this round's Game Master, seems mainly interested in saving her own skin. She appears a loyal follower of the conductor, but the appearance of a promising candidate for composer would quickly change her tune. At this point, she has been working hard to recover the conductor's trust after her slip the first day. She has issued a single 6-day mission, one that exploits Beat's greatest weakness, rhyme. Her plan is to panic the pair into committing some fatal error while keeping watch from her front row seat within Beat's shadow. This serves both to restore her standing with the conductor and to avenge the blow to her pride. Beat's greatest desire is to bring her back to life. Even if revived though, Rhyme still lost the game. Her entry fee is non-refundable. I do not know what the girl's entry fee was, but a life without it The thing she held most dear would be filled with grief and hardship. But is the void in one's heart caused by loss never filled? I think it can be, but it may take some time, but something else will come along to fill the empty space, so long as one enjoys the present. In other words, we wouldn't mourn the loss of that which we hold dear, if only more people realized this. The composer did not impose the entry upon players to cause them anguish. In experiencing life without the thing one most values, players are forced to re-examine just how crucial those things really are. The hope is that by the close of the game, players will be able to take a hard look at themselves and be able to take on the future with a new outlook on life. The entry fee exists to force players to see truth about themselves. It is a test posed by the composer to spur players' self-enlightenment. Okay, Day 4, Secret Report 18. The conductor has begun his work with the red skull pins. By bringing Shibuya's collective consciousness in line with his own, he hopes to accomplish his goal of rebuilding Shibuya. The conductor's seal is unparalleled among Reapers. His strong presence was central to the composer's ability to govern Shibuya, an area considered exceptionally chaotic even among the higher planes denizens. That the composer would consent to base his plans for Shibuya's destruction on a game with the conductor shows his unwavering trust in his subordinate. The unification of minds in the natural state of the higher plane. Given time, it might happen throughout the underground. The current UG, however, is not ready. People have erected walls around their minds, dividing their collective consciousness. They coexist independently, like the cells that make up a single human being. While the player pin hold imagination strong enough to pass through those walls, the pin user's own barriers are strengthened. Were that not the case, the incoming flood of other minds could erode at the user's own consciousness. Consequently, those who hold player pins cannot be scanned. Why does individuality exist? This is something the conductor has overlooked. Everything that exists has a purpose. Obsessed with his egotistic protection of Shibuya, the conductor has blinded himself to these facts. With his blind ego funneled into everyone in Shibuya, the city's destruction is not far off. So long as there is individuality, it is impossible to fully eliminate loneliness. There is no such thing as a shared reality. Even people who believe they share a connection are not truly connected. They must actually make contact, clash, and learn about others through their forgiveness. Differences should not be denied. They should be accepted and enjoyed. People must realize this if Shibuya is to be spared from destruction. Day 5, Secret Report 19. I've detected an energy spike here. It would seem Minamimoto has returned. I judged his revival unlikely after spotting his taboo refinery sigil on the first day, but it appears Minamimoto's imagination is much stronger than I'd anticipated. The fallen angel must have completed the array for him. A troubling thought. Who can say what impact this will have on the composer and conductor's game? Minamimoto has one goal now, to find the composer and erase him. Minamimoto has been tracking the composer's movements. He must know the composer frequents this cafe. Chances are, he'll pay a visit himself. As for the composer, I have yet to receive any word from him. Could the composer's abilities now be so limited that he cannot even reach me? I may need to contact myself in the parallel worlds to help search for him. Oh. Okay, let me expand on the concept of parallel worlds. Please do! In life, reality is made of a continuous string of choices, and the consequences of those choices. Every time a choice is made, the option not selected branches off and exists as its own reality, a parallel world. Steins Gate. Countless numbers of such parallel worlds exist within a single plane, be it the RG or the UG, and travel among them is possible through the use of imagination. Theoretically, anyone can jump to a parallel world, but penetrating the membrane between worlds requires up-tuning one's vibe. This limits the pool of beings able to make the trip. Additionally, stress caused by breaking through the barrier can put down the traveler's base vibe. If the vibe dips, the frequency may be too low to pass through the barrier. In the worst case, it may render the traveler unable to return to his or her own original world. Conversely, angels are beings meant to jump between worlds. Thus, such travel is a simple matter. Angels have a higher base vibe than the frequency of the underground, allowing them to leave the UG then tune their vibe to that of the desired parallel world. Clear as mud, thank you. I mean, I kind of get it, sure. I mean, I get the concept of parallel worlds as a theory, you know, in real life, and I guess the same is said here, except it's being stated that it's not a theory in this reality, but an actuality. Okay, understood. Day 6, Secret Report 20. I have located the composer. He is in a world where Tin Pin Slammer, of all things, reigns supreme. I am off to retrieve him. Oh boy! Minamimoto has definitely targeted this shop, and not with friendly intentions. It is essential that I leave here immediately. I will leave the key pin to the Shibuya River for the proxy. He should know what to do from there. Shibuya's fate has been placed in the proxy's hands. It is no longer safe for me in the UG. My work here is done. All that remains is to retrieve the composer from the parallel world and bring him back to this one. Interesting. So the cafe was fucked up by Minamimoto. Okay, understood. Day 7, Secret Report 22. The composer defeated the conductor. The composer defeated the proxy. However, he has stated his decision to destroy Shibuya. It seems the course of the game has brought about a change of heart in the composer. Yes, Shibuya persists, but it is no longer the same city it was a month ago. In its stead, a completely new Shibuya has arisen. As the composer has changed, so Shibuya has metamorphosed. Metamorphosed. I mean, I understand the word, I just never seen it. Okay. 1 month previous, Shibuya was plagued with problems dire enough to motivate the composer to destroy it. Today, Shibuya has shifted into what we angels believe to be the optimal parallel world. To complete this puzzle, all of the pieces had to be set in the proper place. If even one was incorrect, the entire picture would be ruined. Rhyme's selfless display of kindness, Higashizawa's bottomless career ambitions, Konishi's heart of stone, the conductor's wild actions, born from overflowing love. All of these were necessary if Shibuya was to be born anew. There are no extra pieces, no irrelevant components. Accept society as an ever-changing thing, and your mind will also become flexible. Individuals will link together and enact change throughout society. This is the only way to weather, no, to ride high upon the waves of the ever-changing world. It was no coincidence the composer opted for the simple method in the end. My gratitude goes out to you all. I greatly look forward to what this new Shibuya will become. Thank you. And I can't read anymore. Interesting. Huh. I mean, I understand a lot more of what I just played now. It all makes more sense. Fuck you laughing at it. Also, wow, I literally could have just read this from the start, but okay. I'm glad I didn't. It was fun to kind of figure out who was the author as I went along. Anyway, what the fuck? That's fucking wild. I kind of understand a lot more of what we've seen now, though. And I'm really, like, that was a really fun read. That was, like, an incredibly wild trip. And it also was a fun trip down memory lane to remember things as they went along and to see it from Hannah Montana's perspective as this weird being that I did not even know he was. Anyway, it was a longer episode and, you know, maybe some would even say a slightly more boring episode, but it was a necessary episode. I had to read these, and we will be back. We've read all of this. But we still have to read this, and probably not about obtaining the reports, but we have to read that in the future. But for now, next episode, we have to do Another Day, which, as far as I know, is a completely parody chapter, which I like the sound of. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this episode, please give it a like. If y'all want to subscribe for the remainder of the Let's Play, please do so. And also consider supporting me over on Patreon. Links for everything I just mentioned in the description down below. As always, thanks again for watching, and come back next time for another episode of The World Ends With You.